Welcome to Heart Home Community's most recent Baldwinsville Community Update. I'm your host, Shelly Hoffman. Hey everybody, it looked beautiful in my video, but it is unbelievable amount of snow is out there today. Right, Bob?
Yes, that is true. And I'll get this out early. It's so beautiful out there that we're going to close down the office a little early so they can go and enjoy the sun.
Get a little tan, right?
The roads are very bad. In fact, Shelly knows. I just got a call from my wife and said, "You got to let those people go. The roads are terrible." I already made the decision, so it should be on the web and on Channel 9 News. So yes, the office is going to be closed at 2 today, and court. I'm pretty sure court is shut down as well.
I was going to ask you, the school shut down. They actually shut down last night. And then when I woke up this morning and it wasn't that bad outside, I told the kids, I said, you could have went to school. You just would have been stuck there all day. So,
Yeah.
you know.
I remember being a kid. They never, I used to walk, I lived in the city. I used to walk in the city until I came out here to high school. But a day like today was nothing. You know, we used to have to walk. They never shut it down.
No, coming from Pittsburgh, we shut down a lot. So it took me a while to get used to how little Syracuse shuts down. But it feels like the last couple of years we've had more snow days than we used to. But maybe it's just because my kids are teenagers now and they're telling me when they're not going to school as opposed to me having to, figure out when they're not going to school.
Yeah.
Who knows? But so what's been going on in the town? I think it's been like 2 months since we kind of had a community update from you.
It has been. And we were talking about Hayes Road and sewers down there, and we had talked about a project going in, and we did get, it's called a letter of intent. So I have a developer that gave the town a letter of intent to do a development in that area. So what does that mean for the town? That's incentive zoning. What's incentive zoning? Incentive zoning means if a developer is going to go in and they ask for specific types of accommodations, like for instance, they might want a higher density in that area. They're going to want a higher density housing than would normally be allowed in that area. And the reason we do that is because the town needs some things. What do we need? We need sewers. We need a pump station. So for us allowing the developer to move into to put his development in that area, he is going to provide us with a pump station, a $1.4 million pump station that will allow all that area down on Hayes Road, Amelia Park, Brick Walk, all the way from Palmer School down Hicks Road. So those Gloria Lane and Camerondale, they can all tap into this. So the pump station is going to be 1.4 million. The sewers from the pump station up to the Route 370 is going to be another, the additional amount that they're going to provide that they wouldn't normally need is going to be another $600,000. So the town directly is getting $2 million from the developer. But by them putting the sewers all the way up to 370 means Palmer School can, and they're on a septic. I didn't know that. I mean, good thing they're little kids. If they were older kids, we might have a problem. But they're on a septic, and that septic is going to fail within the next few years. And so they need to come down. By them being able to come down to that area and tapping into the sewers, it saves them like half the distance. So that's going to be, the last I knew, $1 million plus. Now, these are numbers that I'm going on before. It could be 1.5 million, it could be $2 million that we're saving the school district. I don't know, but it certainly is going to save them a substantial amount of money, which saves the taxpayers. So the town directly and indirectly is saving between $3 and $4 million. That's a big savings to the town, big benefit to the town. Then we'll be able to move down later on all around Hayes Road. That's my goal, to get sewers all the way down Hayes Road to Route 370, tap in the Amelia Park, Amelia and Brick Walk, all those homes. They have dry sewers now. Tap them into that, and everybody on that southern part of 370 and going up Hicks Road will have sewers. Now, I'm also working on some other, which are not even close to being done yet, but we're trying to work it out so that along River Road from Palmer School down to 370 down River Road, we're working on different developments and different strategies to get sewers so that that whole peninsula will have sewers eventually. This is not a short-term fix. This is a 5 to 10 year goal that I have, and but this is a big part of it. That development on Hayes Road, that goes a long way to getting sewers to all the residents on in that section of the town.
So just a quick question or clarification, because you're right. When I tell people that Palmer's on septic, it kind of catches them off guard. So, and again, if it's going to fail, they have to do something. So taxpayers are going to pay regardless, right? Either
Yes.
we get help or we don't. But what about the other homeowners? Like if the pump station, when the pump station goes in, the sewers are put in, does that mean that homeowners then have to connect into it that are on septic currently? And if so, that's something they would pay for, correct?
Well, yes, but what I'm trying to do and what the board is trying to do, what we're trying to do is we're going to have to form a district, a sewer district. And I'm not sure how far that's going to go, but who it's going to incorporate, but I believe it'll incorporate everybody coming down from Palmer School, down Hicks, all the way around Hayes, Amelia Park, and Brickwalk. All of that area would be the same sewer district. So all of those people combined, the more people you have, it lowers the cost. So yes, we would form a district, and then they would have to connect to it. Now, Brickwalk and Amelia, I'm not sure about Brickwalk, but I know Amelia has dry sewers. So it's a simple thing. They're already hooked, they'll have to go out, but there's dry sewers there. So I don't know what the cost, but they would have to hook into it, and then it would go into, the other main. Now, the reason that we don't do it all at once is because of the cost. There's other people that have come in. I thought I had a developer that was looking at a property, was looking at the old J&S Marina. I had conversations with a developer that was looking at developing homes down there, and they were going to put in a substantial amount of sewers that would have handled that whole corner. That deal, whatever they were doing, fell through. So there's a new owner. I don't know the new owner. I don't know what the new owner has planned, but that would have been great for the town, because now you would only have to connect the two. And they would have gone a long way. That would have been a huge savings for the town. And that's what we're trying to do, is to get other developers and to come in, develop an area, put in their sewers so that we can tap into them, and then it saves everybody the cost. But yes, everybody will have to. There's going to be a cost when they hook up to it. I don't know what it is. It's not cheap. I think if I was to guess, we got one area, Mills Road, that we're working on now. People are putting in water down there, and to put water lines in, it's like $3,500. I would imagine sewers would be about the same, per residence.
Yeah. On a side note, I had an interesting conversation with a longtime resident about Mills Road and, putting the water in. Mm-hmm. And they were saying that, they had been drinking the water down there for years, and, they grew up there and never had a problem. But when other people come to visit, or kids come to visit who are used to drinking, city water, they have more of a problem. And again, unrelated to our conversation, Bob, I just found it very interesting. Once again, what your body gets used to and how you adapt to things. We talk about little kids getting sick when they were taken out of school, and when everything with COVID was going on, they weren't exposed to as many germs, exposed to as many things. Same thing with the water. It makes me think of what kind of water our ancestors drank and how it would probably kill us today if we drank what they drank, right?
I mean, 100 years ago, we didn't have the pesticides that we have now. We didn't have the runoff that we have now, and the sewage. They used to, I don't know what they did. They probably just did it in a septic, but it was probably going into the water as well. But I know some of the residents down there pulled right out of the Seneca River. Now, a reverse osmosis should take care of that. I'm not a water expert, but it should take care of it. But the problem with that is they're having issues with the zebra mussels. So it'll clog up their system. And then other people who are trying to put wells in are not getting, they can't get a good water out of their wells. And then, the reverse osmosis for whatever reason doesn't work on that. So they came to us with a petition, which forces the town to do something. So they forced us to put that up for, to do something with the area. Now, there's a substantial cost for them. The town, we got a $50,000 grant from the county. Yeah. And we have another 100,000 that we're putting in from the ARPA money. So we're subsidizing $150,000 for that project. Even with that, they're looking at about $1,400 a year for 30 years to get water down there. That's that's not a cheap endeavor. You're talking about 125 a month. About 120 a month that they're going to have to pay. And so we're gonna have a vote on that. They're gonna tell us what they want to do, and then even with that, the state could come in because there's a limit that that the state puts on. I forget what it's the audit and control. They take a look at what the cost is. Well, we're over the cost. $1,064 is the cost that's allowable. If it goes over that, they have to take a look. We have to send the project to them. They have to say if it's too much for the residents to pay. So, they could go through, say, yeah, we want it, and then audit and control could come in and tell the town, no, that's too much. So then we'd have to start over again.
This is why I like talking to you, because there's all these little pieces, right, that happen that unless you're a part of that area that's going through it, you have no idea all the different levels that have to say yay, nay, or what goes into it. So
yeah, and with some of these things, because it's the first time I've done it, when we first started this project, the number was 1,400, but when we put in we initially started with 125,000. That brought it under $1,000. So I wasn't even aware of this audit and control. But then what happened? All the cost of materials, the cost of labor went up. So now, even we put in another 25,000, what we originally agreed to. So we're at 150 from 125, and now we're back up to 1,400. Even with that, because of the cost of things.
Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult. That's why this thing on Hayes Road has taken so long, because the cost of materials, the cost of labor is cost prohibitive and if we got to they have to put the water in. So we're talking about almost 50% more. Well, their cost just went up 50%.
It's crazy.
Slows everything down.
No, it definitely does. It's a couple people I talked to with the grant money, that's coming from the county. Mm-hmm. They got their quotes. At a certain time, it took them a long time to get the contractors because it was a bigger job, and now the cost to do the project is so much higher than it was when they originally got estimates. And that's something that doesn't have to be done. That's a want, not a need. Where a lot of things that with the residents not having good water, that's a need, not a want. So you got to weigh all that in.
We have 2 grants that we can move forward on right now. $100,000 grant for bathhouses in the park, and $100,000 grant to do a cold storage for the highway. At the time when they apply for it, and it takes years to get some of these things. So these just came in. At the time, they would have covered what we needed to do. Now it's 4 times that. So instead of looking at $100,000 for the bathrooms, because we're looking to redo the whole thing now, we're looking at $400,000. And the cold storage is somewhere around $200,000. So we have to find other money to move forward with those projects. Where is it? We're not going to tax for it. I mean, because it's a want, not a need. So we've been going out and looking for different grants. Now we've been very, very fortunate. I mean, with when Senator Mannion was our senator, he worked really well. We got money from him. We got money from Leader Barkley in the assembly. We got money from the county ledge and the county executive. So we've been very fortunate with the money we've been getting here. And even with that, we're having a difficult time keeping the taxes down and everything else like that. But we're very frugal with our money, and we've been doing okay. The tax rate for the town has gone down 17% in the last 3 years. But we're having a tough time keeping up with the increasing costs. That's why it's important with some of this development, as you get more development, it spreads out the pain of taxes to more people, and that helps keep that tax rate down.
Well, speaking of development, you had mentioned a couple things before we went live that were either also in the works or not happening. What else you got on our agenda?
The warehouse at the end of Henkel Boulevard and Route 690. Apparently, the developer pulled that, and that large warehouse is not going to go through right now. Now, it's my understanding something's going to go in on that property, but it's not going to be that large warehouse. What it is, I don't know, because the developer has to come back to the planning board and modify their plans to do whatever they want to do. They're okay to do a certain amount of building there, but if it changes from what their original plan was, they have to come back to the planning board and get the okay from them to do that. So at this point, I know that the warehouse is not going in. I don't know what else is going in there, but
and
that's
just
where we are with that.
Just to kind of refresh how that all happened for those of you watching, remember when this, there's a lot of signs out there saying, say no to the warehouse. That's the warehouse that you're talking about. Was it just that they had to, it's not that they couldn't build it. They just had to make it a lot smaller. Isn't that how the outcome of that came? Or?
Well, at the time, there's only so much that they could, only a certain percentage of the property that they could build on. And then there's also ecological issues, water runoff, wetlands that they have to take care of. So that regulates the size of the structures that can go on that property, and they got okay to do that warehouse. They went through the whole process, and when they were all through, the planning board and the county agreed that, and with the DOT, they were all involved. They all agreed that area, that they could do what they were looking to do there. Now, just to refresh people's memory, that's been an industrial site for commercial or industrial since the 60s. That just nobody went in there. So that isn't anything new. That's the way that the town put that years ago, that it was industrial or commercial. So
and it is, I mean, for that type of property use, just because of 690 being there, it does make sense. It's just a matter of now what's going to be put on that property, I guess. So.
Yeah, and they'll have to come back to the planning board and do that. So one of the other things we were talking about was the governor and some senators. There's a bill in the Senate right now, which is sponsored by actually our new senator now, Rachel May. And what it does is it actually overrides town and villages' authority of local zoning. So in other words, if we'll use the Phillip Street, the village, the developer came into the village, and they said, we want to do this. And then the village took a look at it, and they have their rules in the village. And then they also have to do a traffic study. How does the town handle the traffic? Is it going to be able to handle that and everything else like this? And then they decided that it wasn't a viable project. Or the village decided it wasn't a viable project for that location within the village. Now, if this bill goes through, that the senator and the governor is pushing right now, then the developer would be able to appeal to a state appeals board. The appeals board could say, nope, you got to put that in, and they could override the village and put in whatever they wanted to without considering the traffic study. So they eliminated that. So they're actually forcing it down our throats with no consideration of what it's going to do to the impact locally on the traffic and everything else like that. They are pushing, the governor and Albany are pushing an agenda that they want housing in the suburbs, regardless of what communities have to say. So in other words, with our community, we could have some type of housing that may be not consistent with the character of our town and our village. And some of those things, I mean, they're looking at it for downstate. Well, downstate has all kinds of mass transit. They have trains, they have cabs, they have rail, buses, all kinds of stuff. We don't have any of that, and we're not going to have any of that in the foreseeable future. So some of the stuff that they're looking at doing is not going to be conducive to our community. But if this goes through, they could push 3 or 4, 6, 8, 10-story apartment houses in that Phillips Street area. Now, I'm just using that for example. I don't know if they'd even fit, but that's what they're talking about, putting high-rise buildings in areas that they just want housing. We want more housing.
To your point, and I, obviously with what I do for a living, like I understand the whole housing shortage. I mean, it's an issue everywhere. But it's funny when you were saying that about downstate where they have the cabs and whatnot. To your point, I wanted an Uber at 5 o'clock in the morning because I didn't want to take my car to the airport and park it. I watched it circle looking for someone at 5 a.m. to drive me to the airport. And there's not a high need for it. So no Uber driver or Lyft was sitting there waiting for someone to need a ride to the airport at 5 o'clock in the morning in, Baldwinsville, New York. So I took my car and I parked and I left it there. But I would assume that if I was in New York City, no matter what time of the day I wanted an Uber, somebody would be there to pick me up.
A friend of mine just came home from South Carolina, came home on Sunday, and it wasn't late. It was probably 6:30. And I told him, you should have called me. I wasn't doing anything. I would have come and got and picked you up. But he didn't. And he looked for an Uber. The first one he looked for was $70. So he kept looking. And then there wasn't any. The second, like within minutes, it went to $100. So to come into Baldwinsville from the airport on a Sunday at 6:30 cost $100. Now, some of this housing that they're talking about are low-income housing. Well, if they're low income, a lot of them, they might not even have a car. If they're low income, how do they afford $100 from the city or somewhere else to take an Uber here? There are no cabs. And a lot of people that are low income don't have vehicles. Or if they do, they have one vehicle. Wonder if one partner is working. And then what's the other one do? Maybe they can pick them up or go back and forth, but a lot of people in those situations don't have cars and they rely on buses, mass transportation, which the city has and certainly larger cities have in abundance, but we don't have. You go to Boston, you can get an Uber any time of the day or night. Now we were talking about Philly. You used to be able to get them, but now you got to get a guy in camo and with an AK-47 because they're jacking the cars. But even in those cities, you can get them, but we can't get them here. This area is not set up to handle some of the things that they're looking to do. But again, if this developer went to appeal to the state, there's a good chance that they would say, nope, we need housing. We want it out there without any consideration of how the people living in these dwellings are going to be able to operate. How are they going to do it?
Right.
How are they going to get to work?
Well, even to your point, walking to a store, because I love, I live in the village. I love the village. But if I want actual groceries, I go to Tops on Downer or I head up 31. And when I was leaving today, Jamie doesn't like driving in the snow. His vehicle, as we spoke, isn't good in the snow. And he said, I need vegetables. And he goes, I guess I'm going to walk and see what Kenny has, Kenny Drugs has as far as vegetables, because that's really your walking distance, store. We need milk and we don't want to drive anywhere. We go to Kenny Drugs, and it's
Yeah.
great to have it there, but there's no actual grocery store, you know what I mean, within a walking distance.
I tried it years ago when I was the chief of police in Marcellus. I tried to get No James. Then they're in Marcellus, they don't have anything, but they have a No James, and everybody goes there. I said, hey, before the dollar store was in there, I said, hey, why don't you look at that? That would have been perfect for them. They're all set up. They got a butcher and everything. That would have been, it would have been a home run for them. They probably wish they did it now, but you're right. That's another thing. You got to get groceries. How do you get to the grocery store? The closest grocery store from Phillip Street would be probably Tops up 31.
Mm-hmm.
That's a couple of miles, 2-3 miles. You're not going to walk there. Well, some people would, but
especially on a nice day. I walked to the office today. I told you I was drinking bread. I don't know what my groceries will look like.
Coming back with 4 bags of groceries. Yeah, that would be fun. Listen, I ran when I lived over at Clay. I ran down here one day, and it was 8 miles to my sister-in-law's house near Downer. When I got to it was about 80 something degrees. When I got to the bottom of the hill by Budweiser, if I could have called an Uber, I would have, because I was dying. I had to cool off. I got to the top of the hill, and then it got shady. I was great. But that was terrible. So I wouldn't do that again.
So just to go back to, why is the Senate, why are they pushing for that? Is it because of the housing demand that's out there? Did they say?
They talk about housing. I think it's an agenda that if you look at the city, this is, I don't know if this is the case. This is my theory. I think that some people are trying to push people out of the city into the suburbs so they can have, everything downtown. If you look at downtown right now, look at all those housings that are going on. When I worked for the sheriff's department, there were vacant buildings there. Well, those buildings are all, near the state office building, everything. They're all housing. They're all apartments and things. Well, you're not renting those for $900 a month. Over at the Landmark, above the Landmark, those are big money apartments. They are all, very expensive. If you buy those condos, they're $1 million, some of them. So now when they go down and they wipe out that Route 30 or 81, and by the way, my family was one of those people that were displaced when 81 went through originally. We lived on McKinley Ave in the city when they came through, and we had to move. I kind of remember that. That was a long time ago. I was a little kid, but so now they have all that housing there. Where are they going to go? Well, they're not going to buy those $3,000, or not going to live in those $3,000 a month housing. They're not going to live in, there's no housing down there. And some of the housing, like you've seen on the news, I'm not going to beat up anybody, but some of the housing that is available isn't livable for anybody. So where are they going to go? So they're trying to push them out of the city. Why are they trying to push them out of the city? Because some politicians want to gentrify these cities and then bring everything in, but low-income people will not be able to afford that, because they're, if you look at downtown New York City,
it's expensive.
They're not doing it, and that's what I see going around the country, and they're trying to push it out into the suburbs without any regard for the character of the communities that have been going on for, Baldwinsville since the 1700s. And that's, I've been working hard to position us so that they're not going to have an easy time doing it here. A lot of the good spots are taken up, or any place that would be conducive to, high-rise buildings really is, we don't have that. They couldn't do it. There's a lot of land. If you go 370 west, no sewers out there. And how are you going to get to anywhere? You go out there, people that are used to living in the city, they'd be scared to death. There's scary things out there, owls and snakes and
Well,
dark at night.
and again, anybody, that knows me and we talk about real estate, I hate that there's low, most people do, that there's low housing, but it feels like there should be things put in place, because quality of living, quality of life is so important where you live. And if you're putting those high rises in places where people can't get to just even not their wants but their needs, those things
Yeah,
should come into place. And when you can't get an Uber, or you're paying $100 for an Uber from
yeah,
for a 20-minute ride. I think when my dad lived with me and he couldn't drive anymore, he took an Uber to Walmart, and it was still like $50 a couple times he paid to go to
that,
Walmart.
yeah. Who
That's
can
your
afford
grocery
that?
bill.
Yeah. Now, and here's the other thing. Like we were talking earlier, we have these two developments, one going in Radisson, one going that will be going in out in on Hayes Road. Out of those two, there's probably 200 units that'll be available for seniors. Right now, like we talked earlier, McCary Park, where seniors would like to move in, that's a 10-year waiting list. Well, some people in 10 years, they might not be around, unfortunately. I mean, people in their 70, when I'm 75, I'll be lucky to live 10 years past that. But so now if we have those 200 units that are affordable for seniors, it opens up other housing in the village. So now maybe they live in a bigger house. They want to move into a turnkey type place where they can maybe travel, see their kids, or go down to Florida in the wintertime or whatever, and not have to worry about it. Now that opens up maybe a 3 or 4 bedroom house in the village. And then who's going to move into that? Other people that like the village. Maybe they have a starter home. Maybe that's a small ranch or a small Cape Cod. They move from that Cape Cod to that larger house. Now the people that are just starting out can move into those smaller homes, and we don't have to build more houses. That's 200 houses. That's a lot of housing going on. You would be happy because you'd be selling them. There'd be a lot of housing there, but it just makes sense. And then the other nice thing is when people move into those housing, as people get older, some people, they may run out of cash. They may not be able to keep up their home. Now, new people move in and they redo their house. Now, that house that may have been a little run down, now it's all fixed up. There were a couple of houses on MacArthur Ave I saw they redid. They look great. I did that with my house. Redid the whole thing. It looks much different than it did before. So there's a lot of benefits for that. We can get affordable housing by thinking strategically and looking at other options for people to move in. And when we talk about affordable housing, a three-bedroom Cape Cod is much more affordable than a 4-bedroom colonial that's 3,000 square feet, 1,600 foot Cape Cod. And we have a lot of those in the village.
Yeah.
Those are nice homes for families to move into.
Well, and not to go too far down into the real estate industry, but the other thing, rents are so high that the last few people, myself and some of my co-agents have been helping, is they can't afford the rent, never thought they could afford a house, right? Because it's a mindset. Come to find out that, they can be pre-approved and they're finding a house, but they need to find that, they need to find an available house right now. But rents are really high. And sometimes people have that mindset. It's just easier to rent. I know what my monthly bills are going to be. I'm not going to have to take care of anything. But I don't know if you've looked at rents lately, even in Baldwinsville.
Oh, they're high.
They're high.
Yeah, they're high. I mean, it's supply and demand. But here's the thing for, when we're talking about affordable housing, the government has to loosen up the criteria. 20%. Even, now we were talking a small ranch could go for 180,000. Well, that's $36,000. 20%. Well, if you're paying $1,800, $2,000 a month for rent, you got 2 cars, maybe 2 people in a household are working, it just that alone, that's a lot of money. Throw a kid or 2 in there. Now, it's hard to come up with that. When my wife and I were first married, they knocked it down to 5%. Yeah. And then also, but now this sounds high today. People would freak out with this. Our first house, we got a mortgage rate of 9.9%. My wife and I were jumping up and down because at the time it was like over 15%.
Yeah.
But that allowed us to buy our first home. And then after that, we moved up. So the government has to do something with that too, to make it easier for first-time home buyers. If you're a veteran, veterans can go in with no money down. That's a home run.
Well,
we love veterans. My
and
son's a veteran, my daughter's a veteran. I mean, we like veterans here. And they can get low interest loans with them. And biggest key is they don't have to put that down payment.
yeah. Well, and then there's I will say the banks and the lenders, they've done a good job. I mean, because you do have the FHA, which is 3%, 3.5% down, different things, but seller concession. So there's ways, but a lot of people still have that mindset of that 20% that they have to,
Yeah,
because their parents tell them you got to save 20%.
sure.
And the prices of housing, 20% is a lot of money. And
A lot of
you know,
money.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're lucky here. We got a couple of, our banks and our local banks, Salve Bank, Seneca Bank, just to
They're
name
awesome.
a couple. They're great. They work with you really well. I
Mhm.
mean, but even I ended up getting my car loan through Salve Bank, and I had to pay 5.8%. And that from I actually paid less for my new car than I did for my last car. My last 6 years ago, what I paid for that car 6 years ago, I paid $100 less for the same model car. And because of the interest rate, I'm paying $50 more a month because I got a 1.9% before. Now I got a 5.8.
Mhm.
$50 just in interest. Now just think about that as a mortgage. It's a lot.
No, it's a lot. I always tell people, don't look at the amortization schedule. Don't look to see what you paid in interest for 30 years but again, it's still better than, the money is at least going towards a house, towards an investment. Don't get
Yeah.
don't get me started on real estate. My kids will tell you I'll never shut my mouth about it. But
Well, I mean,
20% is a lot, and it's not
yeah,
very rarely, unless you're in competition for a house, because everybody's heard about multiple offers and all that stuff. But 5% seems to be the more realistic for most buyers to have to put down now, and
they can do that for 5%. What type of loan?
that's a
I know
conventional. There is a conventional
conventional
loan out
loan,
there that's
5%.
5% down.
What do
But
you have
you
to
have
be
to pay. You have to pay interest, like I mean, not interest. You have to pay
points?
insurance.
Point.
So once you
Oh,
hit
yeah, you
twenty
have to pay the
percent,
mortgage. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
the mortgage
That's
insurance.
it. Well,
Once you
there
hit
you
twenty
go.
percent, then that drops off.
Again, you have to pay that mortgage insurance that just goes up in the air.
Yeah.
How much is that now?
It depends. It's a percentage. A lot of times, like the only one that ever told me it was like an extra 120, 150, but I can't even remember what the price of the house was or the
Yeah,
mortgage was.
but
But yeah, it's
$150 for nothing. Absolutely nothing.
because if you don't have that 20%, it's the way
Yeah,
that
yeah, that they get you again. But all of that keeps adding up.
Oh
So,
yeah.
but we that's why we're working on different things here. I mean, we do have some smaller houses. We in the village we have some homes. Some small ranches, some small Cape Cods.
We have some
So,
cute. I mean, we were talking about over off of Downer Street, those side streets.
yeah,
Ford. They have some really cute houses over there. And there was a period of time in the '90s where just everything was huge. 3,000 square feet. It seems like we're coming back a little bit to where people are looking a little bit smaller, right?
well, if you look at the cost of housing to build a new house in Lysander right now, and we're low. It sounds like a lot, but we are low, and our tax rate, it's either the lowest or the second lowest in Onondaga County by far. But to build a house, a new home right now, is at least 250 a square foot. So let's think about that. If it's 1,000 square feet, and that's not very big, that's $250 or 250,000. If it's 1,500, and that's not very big, that's 375. Now I can tell you that I know that in Timber Banks, I mean that's if not the nicest, one of the nicest areas around. We have some nice areas, but that's very nice. They sold a house in there under 1,500 square feet on a postage stamp lot for $514,000.
Mhm.
That's a lot of dough.
It is. And if you think back to 2016, right, when the cost to build a new home was more like 155, 175. Would you say it
Yeah,
is now 250
a square foot.
a square foot? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, in Lysander. So I mean, we're not. I mean, if you build anywhere, it's going to be at least that much. It could be more now. Now that
Yeah.
was last year's numbers. Now it did come down a little bit, but that's about what you're looking at. I mean, that's why to buy a house, if you can do the work, and we were talking Unfortunately, a lot of young people can't do that work anymore, but I could. So I could buy a smaller house or a house with maybe not so many amenities, and then I put things in. I did built-ins. I put in hardwood floors. I added trim to the house. I had that ability to do that. Or if I bought an older home, which this is the first one I ever bought, all the rest are new, but I could do my own roof. I can do a roof. I can do, build walls, build a shed and stuff like that. That helps you save some money. Fortunately, a lot of younger people, they can't do it. If you can do it, you get a good deal. You can get a value.
Yeah. Nope. I agree. So what else we got on the agenda for Lysander?
Okay, I'll make this quick. We got going to be some things going in the Parks Director. Kevin Merrill has some new programs coming up. I know he had a lady in there talking about a track camp. He's got new outdoor cornhole boards that are going to be available for people. We have the bags, but these cornhole boards, they're really nice. They can leave them out in the weather 24/7. So anytime you go down there, and if the park, if someone doesn't happen to be there or whatever, I bring my own bags. I like the good ones. So you can bring your own bags, but. So you got track, cornhole, and pickleball. We're always working on pickleball. We're thinking about somewhere down the road maybe putting up lights down there so it can be used more often. We're going to be doing that. We're going to be adding more parking in the park. Lastly, we have our club comprehensive land use plan, and what that is our strategy for the town moving forward. What do we want the town to look like in the next 5 years? Over the next 5 years, so it deals with the comprehensive land use plan deals with, where do we want the open space? What type of business, how do we want to allow for businesses? Where do we want development? Where do we want commercial, industrial? And that's that we just got the draft. We went through it. So we just had a public hearing Monday with state and county officials. Only one person showed up. So we'll be having a public hearing. We may set that up Thursday, if not the following Thursday, I think. And then so that people can come in and listen to what we have to say and, weigh in on it. But that was a committee they've been working on in a long time. And what some people, I had heard some people come in and criticize the process. Why is it taking so long? Well, they're volunteers. First of all, they are volunteers from the community. They're business people like yourself. I mean, so it's not like we can put a whip on them. Hey, get going with that. No, we have to work around their schedules, and they're busy people. We wanted to get a cross section of people from the community so that we had good representation. And that's why it took the time. And it's not so important that we rush through it. What's important is we have a quality product. Now, the next one, what I will probably do is we do it every 5 years. Because of Micron now, I will probably start that 3 years from now, form a committee 3 years from now. So they'll have a 2-year period to really dig into it, see what the impact of Micron is, because we'll have a much better feeling for how it's going to impact our town and what type of pressure it's going to put on us. But so that we could have one for maybe at the end of 5 years. But it's been a process. I saw the product, very, very good. The people that are involved, smart people, and they did a great job on it. So that'll be available pretty soon. That's all I got. We've been talking for a while, so.
Well, we hadn't talked in 2 months, so, and then
we started talking real estate. I think you liked it too much.
my kids, if we're out shopping somewhere and someone says something real estate, they start pushing me to the direction of the door because they know they're in there for a while. So, but it's such a diverse, there's so many different avenues of real estate that I think it's not just because I love it so much. I think almost anybody, you start talking real estate and people have stories and what they're doing. And I think it's important for the community what happens in real estate. I mean, it definitely plays a part in what's going on in the big picture. So But
You
you
know,
were right, Bob. You want a short video, you can't talk real estate because
with I just had one more thought. With Micron, they're talking about all this development and everything, and there is going to be pressure on everybody in the community or everybody in the county to do certain things. But I have made it well known, and I'm trying to position our town so we keep the character of our town. What I'd like to see is our town to be the jewel of the Northwest. So then let the other towns that are surrounding Micron take, because they're going to take the traffic. They're going to take a lot of that housing push because it's closer to Micron. And we're just far enough away, and we have been developed just enough to where I think we have a good opportunity to maybe see more businesses, nice business, boutique places in our village, be a place where maybe the executives from Micron want to come and live. That helps out the community. So I know that they're going to be pushing Route 57, Route 31 going east, Route 11 and Route 81. Those areas are going to see some drastic changes. Route 31 here might see a little bit of a change, but I'm working on something. I mean, I'd like to see that bridge go across that 631 over to Van Buren. That was something that the state was talking about in the early 70s because my wife's father worked for the state, and that's before GPS. He used to go over and take aerial photographs, and they were talking about that in the early 70s, having a bridge going from 631 across 370 over to, and it would come out near Van Buren Road. I think that would take a lot of pressure off of the village and off of our town, and make a nice thoroughfare into the western part of the county.
Yeah, you know what? That's probably the biggest complaint I hear about the village is congestion with traffic. The more popular the village of Baldwinsville gets and the areas around it, the more traffic that comes into it. But
people got to get used to just not getting in their car and driving right down through the lights and everything. That's not going to happen anymore. But I hear that all the time, and I checked it out. So I go from the village or from the town into the village, and I live on the other side of Four Corners down on West Genesee Road. And from the fish store, Atlantic Seafood, I got stopped there at the light. So I checked my watch, see how long. It was bumper to bumper. Right at 4 o'clock on a Friday. Took me 3 minutes to get through the Four Corners.
Oh my gosh, 3 minutes? Who has time for that, Bob? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, well, that's my point. 3 minutes is not traffic. Go to Boston, go to Philly. I mean, 3 minutes is not a problem. And the same thing going out 370, even at 8 o'clock in the morning. Since they made the lanes, I waited a minute. I mean, we really don't have a traffic problem. Yeah, is there more traffic? Absolutely. Is it a traffic problem? In my perspective, no. I'm sure someone's going to say, oh, you're crazy. It is a traffic problem. But I don't think we have it. But that doesn't mean that we can't be strategic and look forward, because we could at some point have a traffic problem. So I can assure you that I'm working on that.
Perfect. Well, thank you for the information again today, Bob. And as always, nice chatting with you. So anything else before we part ways?
No, that's it. I think we're good.
All right. Well, enjoy this sunny, snowy day today then.
Yeah. Remember, close that too.
Close it too. Just because not just because your wife told you to, you had already decided you were doing that.
Well, yeah, I already decided it, but she probably would have beat me up if I didn't do it. Luckily for me, I already decided on it.
Perfect. All right. Talk to you later, Bob.
Thanks.